Colleagues, I rise today not as a representative of a caucus, religion, or identity, but simply as a human being compelled to speak for humanity. Because human rights has no race, no gender, no religion, and no nationality. They belong to us all. In introducing SCR 105, we confront one of the greatest moral tests of our time in this century, the defense of human rights in Gaza. I thank my colleagues who support this long overdue resolution, including members of the Legislative Jewish Caucus. We may carry very different perspectives and emotions, but we are united in one truth. Every human life deserves dignity and protection. Let us begin with the facts since October 7th, 2023. More than 64,000 Palestinians have been killed, most of them women and children, 163,000 wounded, 1.7 million individuals displaced into overcrowded shelters and tents, 1,200 Israelis killed in the October 7th attack, with additional soldiers lost since. Dozens of hostages remain captive in Gaza under dangerous and degrading conditions. The United Nations and World Food Program warned that over 500,000 people are on the brink of famine. Mothers boil weeds to feed their children. Doctors amputate without anesthesia. Infants die in powerless incubators. This is not simply conflict. This is not merely tragedy. This is atrocity. This is a human catastrophe, a humanitarian catastrophe. Beyond the numbers are the lives that I often try to remind my colleagues of. Gaza has become a graveyard for children. Families lie buried together. Disease spreads in tents where sewage seeps into water. Parents claw through rubble to recover their children, and mothers carry and cradle lifeless infants starved by siege. And yet we must also remember Israel's nightmare: families massacred in their homes, young people slaughtered at a music festival, more than 200 hostages dragged into darkness. Their families wake every morning in anguish. Their humanity matters too. As someone whose family comes from generations of war, I do not glorify conflict. I know its costs. Children left fatherless, homeless, and traumatized. War steals not only lives, but futures. This resolution is not about choosing sides in a war. It is not about labels or comparisons. It is about one thing: choosing humanity. It is about demanding human rights and holding every violator accountable, no matter who they are. This resolution affirms the humanity of every victim. It condemns terrorism. It condemns collective punishment. It calls for accountability under international law, the protection of civilians, and the safe return of all hostages. Here in California, Jewish, Muslim, Arab, Israeli, and Palestinian communities live side by side. They are grieving. They are afraid. They face rising anti-Semitism, anti-Israeli hate, Islamophobia, anti-Arab and anti-Palestinian hate. We must say clearly, hate has no place here. Safety for one community must never come at the expense of another. Safety must rise for all of us together. This resolution is bipartisan. It shows that we can grieve every family, condemn every act of terror, and still choose compassion over cruelty, law over vengeance, and justice over silence. History will remember where we stood when children begged for bread, when hospitals went dark, when hostages languished in captivity. California can model courage without cruelty, compassion without confusion. Let us be remembered for raising our voices when silence would have been easier. Let us stand without hesitation on the side of humanity, justice, and the dignity of every human being. Colleagues, I urge you for your aye vote. Let us send an unmistakable message that California stands for human rights, for every civilian life, and for the simple truth that no child, no matter where they are born, should ever pay the price of war. Thank you. First and foremost, I want to thank every senator who has spoken about this issue and understands that this is a call for humanity. It is something that I believe that all of us support and believe in. And I really want to highlight kind of how this transpired in so many ways. You know, we know the facts, we know what has happened in the international community, and I said very early into my statement that I rise as a human being first. Not part of caucus, not part of identity, but specifically as a human being. And I want to highlight the conversations with Jewish caucus members. There were many iterations of this reso, and I want to highlight that it is not a complicated conversation in the sense that we know what we want, but highlighting what has happened, who is upset, who has been victimized, who has been brutalized, those things was where we had some disagreements. And I really want to highlight the fact that we can debate history, we can debate politics all day, every day. That is what we do here. However, I think all of us believe in a future that allows every single individual to have dignity, respect, and safety. And I want to again thank every single member who signed on to this resolution, as well as who spoke up for it, because this is a bipartisan, bicameral effort. It is long overdue. It is something that, as much as we do highlight the fact that it is an international crisis over there, but there are family members here that are seeing loved ones suffer, figuring out what happens to their aunt, their uncle, their grandparents, their cousins, their nieces and nephews, and the children over there. And it does impact our constituency across the board. I have consistently supported every single community and every single identity in the basic fundamental right of being treated with dignity and respect in this state as well as abroad. And the Jewish caucus members, and I really want to thank my Jewish colleagues, both from San Francisco and Santa Monica, for just having the patience and the courage to have these conversations, to say, okay, Wahab, I know you want to do this. There's a lot of concerns. It is considered controversial, but it truly isn't. I think that people are afraid to talk to each other. People are genuinely afraid to just say what's on their mind because of judgment, because they have to represent some identity, some community, some version of even themselves trapping themselves in a box. And that's the reality of what we create in politics and society, is that we put ourselves in a box and then forget that, as my colleague stated, God is in between us, but also within us. And we are connected to each other. We are connected as human beings. We are connected as living creatures on the same planet, breathing the same air. And we have highlighted so much about the women and the children and the elderly. And this resolution was not about pointing fingers. It was not about picking a side, because I think all of us believe in the dignity of all people. It was about, what do we want to see in the future in this world? And one of the things I really wanted to highlight is that no child should ever lose their innocence and become a child of war, regardless of what color, what gender, what religion. Every Israeli and Palestinian deserve safety, dignity, freedom, independence, and a future. I want to thank the Jewish Caucus and my colleagues who have joined in this call. And I know it was difficult even to have the conversations within your own families, with your own communities. And I will also highlight the fact that being, as my colleague from Sacramento stated, one of one, it is also very difficult to be able to comment and be very genuine in my concern for both sides when people are still very afraid of each other and saying the wrong thing. I want to highlight the fact that because we are standing for humanity, this is not controversial. We must never be afraid to talk to each other, listen to each other, and choose compassion over silence and fear. Colleagues, I urge your aye vote, and I want to thank all of you guys for this very respectful conversation. Thank you.